Welcome to our presentation. We'll be showing you some of our work for JCU. I don't know if you were there in Danny's presentation this morning. He talked about JCU Online. So we're kind of an extension of that presentation, if you like, about that the work that we've done to bring JCU Online to life. So Kate and I come from Keypath Education. We are an online program management company. We provide an end-to-end service to help universities launch and market and grow online programs. And Danny's got better images of JCU, but you heard all about it. It's a university in Townsville, Cairns and Singapore is where the campuses are.
Today we really just wanted to share with you something of our experience with Ultra. So Alex and I are both learning designers. We were employed by Keypath a little over a year ago, and we were told that we were going to be creating postgraduate courses using Ultra as the platform. So the task that we had was to create these fully online, accelerated graduate programs. So for us, this is we call it a carousel model. It means that the students are studying each subject over a 6-week period, plus an O week. And you can imagine how busy it was for us when you think about the fact that, you know, in just a little over a year, we've delivered 19 subjects in their entirety. We have 30 subjects currently under development. We were faced with this new tool. You can imagine the design challenges that we had to deal with in terms of using a new platform and in terms of thinking about how we could create really engaging, effective learning in the new platform. So today we'll just take a look at 3 things. Firstly, the design challenge that we faced. Some of you may be facing a similar challenge. Our first impressions of Ultra. We'll present the design solution that we came up with and our rationale for that solution. And we'll end with just looking at Ultra and what we're seeing as being in it for the academics. So our design challenge really was, how could we create effective, fully online, accelerated learning experiences in Ultra? So for me, I have 20 years of experience as a learning designer in mainly corporate e-learning, and I had a very clear idea of what I wanted the student experience to be. So like most of you, I wanted the experience to be social. I wanted it to be interactive. I wanted there to be lots of opportunities for practice. I wanted it to be full of rich media, and really the focus was on formative practice and lots of interactive activities.
Yes, and at Keypath, because our learning design is very much informed by the format of the courses, so they're being accelerated 6-week subjects that students take one at a time and progress in a sort of a carousel type curriculum where they can start at any point. It's really important for us to consider how we present the content. For students, especially for students who are sometimes in employment, especially in some of the courses that we look at, they're older, they're busy. So we want to find a way of presenting short learning cycles that live within one page, so that students can look at a topic, they can complete it in a short amount of time, and they've still met learning outcomes. And to make sure that those learning cycles are rich in media, they are activity-driven, there's plenty of opportunities for social interactions, but all done in a very contained way. It was very important for us, of course, to have content that is very easy to navigate, and to keep students engaged with a variety of activities rather than just the activities that sort of come out of the box. variety is sort of quite an important thing for us.
Yeah, and I think as learning designers, you know, consistency matters, but variety matters as well. So I don't know if anyone's, you know, read the Heath Brothers book, Make It Stick. You know, having the unexpected in a course can sometimes be very important. You know, when we have students doing multiple subjects, we want consistency, but we want variety as well. And actually with the master's level courses that we're creating, the variety is actually really critical, because if we have an MBA student who needs to engage with a SWOT analysis, or we have a nursing student who needs to practice a health assessment, well, we can't really deliver effective learning unless we can have customised activities that allow the students to do some formative practice. So for us, trying to find a way of getting some variety into the subjects was very critical. And going back to that design challenge that we were faced with, you know, thinking about what makes learning effective and wanting to have 3 types of interaction in any subject that we created. So giving the students opportunities to interact obviously with the course materials, but also making sure they had really strong opportunities to interact with their tutors and to interact with each other. That for us, if we could create subjects that provided each of these 3 opportunities, we felt we'd have really great content. So yeah, we came with all of that, our ideas about, you know, effective online learning, and we took a look at Ultra, and we found that we could create pages, we could create quizzes, discussions, we could embed the rich media that we wanted to, and there were some things that were just missing that we'd hoped would be in Ultra that just weren't there. You know, we didn't see blog tools, we didn't see wikis, we didn't see journals, this type of thing. So yeah, we had this design challenge, we had a tool and a platform, and our challenge was to find a way of bringing those 2 things together.
Yeah, so we took a hard look at it and decided that really the way to go, if we wanted to implement, if we really wanted to implement what we were trying to achieve, would be to get into web development and essentially design our learning material in web pages, which, as you might have seen in Danny's presentation, eventually JCU's team was able to make it work within the Ultra panels rather than linking out. And I'll demonstrate that. You can see it in practice as well. We made use of third-party tools to make sure that we still have the functionality of some of these tools that we didn't see. And all this enabled us to create bespoke learning activities that were really targeting the needs for the course and were really aligned with the outcomes that students needed to achieve. So that was our solution, and I was going to show you a couple of examples of some of the activities that we were able to develop. Some of the activities that some of the flexibility that HTML web design afforded us, really, to be able to really pretty much think out of the box. When we look at a course materials, we can just do pretty much whatever we can imagine. So first of all, you've probably seen Ultra quite a bit today, but here's an example of how our learning pages open in a panel. This is what the JCU team was able to achieve, because initially, before the team came up with the solution, initially what would happen is you would add a web link and basically it would open a new tab, and obviously that, for us, that wasn't really going to work. We wanted a mobile-first solution. We didn't want tabs. We wanted everything to work within the same learning environment. We didn't want to link out to anything, or at least we wanted to limit the times at which students link out. Also, while I'm showing you this is probably a good example of the short learning cycle. That's in practice, really. There's an activity that at the top there that its intention is to generate interest in the topic, mostly by asking students a question, starting with a reflection, rather than telling students things. Then, of course, you get to tell students things, where we have new knowledge, the necessary content that students need to meet the outcomes. And at the end, we have a case study, a scenario that students can work on as an activity. So that's just a quick example of how that works in practice. But so more sophisticated activities include this one, which is one of my favorites. This is taken from a course from a subject in the Masters of Nursing called Business and Finance for Health Professionals. So not really a great match. But the point was that we needed a really easy way, a really smart way of getting across the simple accounting equation. And what we did is we borrowed an activity that was initially developed for the data science subject, which was a walkthrough activity. It walked through students. It walked students through an equation. So we used it in a table so that students could see in practice how the equation works, how it could potentially work. So this walkthrough is all built in HTML, and you're going to click on the individual cells if you want to go back and remind yourself of the content. So that's an example. Again, going back to that idea of getting students to really put the learning in practice, here's an example of an activity. There's a video that links back to, again, talks in more detail again about the learning equation, and then we give them an annual report from a healthcare company, and students are asked to consider what the financial health of this company based on this report. And it's a real report. So some examples of formative assessment, if you like, some examples of activities where students demonstrate their learning. And you can see how short this topic is, but really, if you go back to the documentation, you can really see how it's very well aligned, actually, and it wouldn't take too long for the students to complete this. And finally, as an example, this is taken from a subject called Contemporary Healthcare Education, where nursing students are looking at online learning as a solution for education in the healthcare settings. And in this topic, which explores online solutions, in this video, gamification was mentioned. And so we thought there's an opportunity to put in a little example of game. Now the game itself is not, they're not going to learn anything from the material in the game, but the game itself is the learning, if that makes sense, because they're thinking about, they're looking and seeing how something like that could be implemented in a page. So it's right there for them. I won't start it, but we could actually go through this and see how well we score as a group, but we won't do it today. But this is the kind of flexibility that building in web pages allowed us. And you can see this is still all represented very much in Ultra using the panel. Go back to the slide where we were. Sorry about that. So I think we're at this point where we're going to talk about what's in it for the academics. So our courses are fully online. But I can actually see opportunities for blended learning here, and especially with JCU rolling it out mostly, the majority of the work that they do is basically for blended learning, campus learning. If you take the HTML build or the web design factor out, it's actually really easy and quick to build the course. Even for us, putting together the structure in Ultra that will support then the placement of the web pages is very, very easy. It probably takes, now we've done it a couple of times, it probably takes us less than an hour to actually build the course, taking aside the HTML, of course. The interface is intuitive, it's responsive, streamlined, and that sort of linear cascading menu is actually really kind of a very logical way of moving through a course. Everything you need is there. You don't have to navigate to other places to find your content. There are some downsides, obviously.
Well, I think the solution works really well for us, and we have great courses that we're building out now. We have a library of reusable activity types, and we can create custom activities. But this solution is certainly not going to be for everyone. We're really lucky that we have a team of web developers that we rely on to create our HTML pages. Not everyone is going to have that. There was a really big initial investment in creating the activity types that we now reuse. There were many months where we were thinking those through, designing them, iterating them, finalising them. Now we have them, that's great, but there was a really big investment into creating those initially, and we don't yet have analytics working as we'd like to have them on those pages, so that's a bit of a work in progress. So yeah, certainly not for everyone, but for us, the solution of having these HTML pages with their fully customised activities has worked very, very well for us.
And when we say analytics, I think we should make clear that that is in terms of us understanding the interaction with the web page, right? It's not something
Correct.
that has to do with Ultra's analytics, which actually, in terms of discussions and the overall analytics, we're finding that it's good and getting better and better. But we need to actually find a solution for our problem,
Yeah.
which is understanding the usage of the web pages, which will then potentially inform our learning design and improve it.
I think that one of the great things is that we don't get a lot of feedback about how students find Ultra. They'll give us feedback about everything else, and they'll tell us what they're not happy with, but really they're not giving us much about Ultra, which kind of suggests that they're pretty happy with the Ultra experience. So there was one comment that I dug out that is pretty indicative of what we do here, and what we hear is, that it's easy to use. The students find it really easy to navigate around Ultra. They find it intuitive, and if you click to the next slide, the academics that we work with at JCU really reflect that. They find that the environment is very slick. They find that their students are responding very well to it. So in general, for us, the feedback has been either non-existent or very positive. So yeah, I think, it's only been 1 year for us. It's been a very busy year. But I think we have had success in meeting the design challenge that we were faced with. We are now making what we think are effective, fully online, accelerated graduate courses. We have found a way to work in Ultra that has moved us just beyond pages. We've integrated the short learning cycles that we felt would be effective. The focus on having an activity-driven course is definitely there. There are tools in Ultra that allow us to create social experiences, in particular the Collaborate course room. And I think we've ticked the box with variety as well, although it has required, as I said, quite a big investment in time. Questions?
So the first one is, I know that you have web developers and stuff involved in the creation of this, and it's that. But what about ongoing maintenance of the content? Are academics able to change the text and things like that? Or does that
Yeah, we're pretty careful with that. We hold on to that content pretty tightly, and we don't allow our academics to go in and tweak the content. We've had instances where that has happened, and we find that the pages tend to break. So yeah, we have a process where they feed their changes back to us in logs, and then either the learning designers or the developers will go in and actually make the change.
And will that be sustainable as you get more and more courses developed in this way?
Might have to find out over time. So far, so good.
Yeah. Well, we do have we know the curriculum, and we know how the carousel progresses, and so we have. In terms of project timelines, we have factored in all the instances where a subject is going to be relaunched. And actually, in fact, happens quite frequently, as you would think. So actually, every 3 subject periods, which is not a very long time in our model. It's probably within a year, you'd probably find it launched twice, at least. And so we do have a process by which we collect feedback and make corrections if there need to be corrections. And then we have further down the track, every 4 iterations, we have what we call a course refresh, where we do take a more careful look at that subject, and there could be potential changes in, say, the assessment strategy. There could be potential changes. We do, in the process of maintaining it, obviously we do have a model by which we make sure that all the hyperlinks, all the rich media that is external still works before it goes live again.
Yeah, so it is quite a significant QA process and a documented sort of maintenance and then course refresh process.
Do you have many of the accelerated programs?
Well, there's two courses. One is a third one is starting in October, and the 2 that we have already started in launched in October last year. So yeah, we've I know it said 19 subjects there, but actually last week we launched another 4, so that number's probably gone up. Yes.
Yeah, I'm just wondering how you work with academics and what role they play in the development process.
Very closely. Yeah, we have a whole process for working with them. A learning designer is assigned to an academic. We do full kick-offs with them to explain our development timeline and our processes. One learning designer will work with one academic to kind of co-produce the subject content. We have a big build section in the middle where the academic is not involved, and then they come in at the end and support us with a QA process. So yeah, I'd say it's sort of a partnership. Yeah. Do you have anything to add to that, Alex? Or?
Yeah, I mean, it's a very close partnership, actually, and in some instances, I mean, I've been very fortunate to work with one academic across a number of subjects, and it's actually very, it ends up being a really, really strong relationship. You know, you kind of see all these courses going live, and sort of doing the best you can to make them sort of engaging. So it's really good.
I just want to ask, where you store the HTML assets or pages, are they written?
It's in the content collection area, yeah. It lives in the content collection area. So.
Questions before lunch, or?
How's the content that was located to produce? Is it like the web developers actually coding, or do you have a builder or something that you need to do?
We have web developers, yeah. Some of us do it ourselves, but we also have a web development team which works on these projects. Obviously, we storyboard the whole subject, and we just hand it over to a web developer, and then we work with the web developer to ensure that there's consistency in the way the content's presented and make sure everything works, because web developers don't necessarily build things that work. But
yeah, and I think it's worth saying that it might change. I mean, we've only been doing this for a year, and we're probably looking at a situation where we create reusable kind of snippets of code, and then get our learning designers involved in actually creating out the pages, unless we have something that's very custom and bespoke. So Alex at the moment will create his own kind of HTML pages. I'm not that great with HTML, so I'll hand my documents over to the web developers. So yeah, we have different ways of working with that.
Please thank Alex and Kate.